Now, I think that we could all safely agree here that Disney has had the absolute worst year throughout all of 2023 on multiple factors. The Disney stock hitting a decade low, their ongoing box office failures, along with the upcoming Marvels and Snow White live-action remake that's destined to fail, and let alone we have a lot of merchandise, especially for Star Wars, hitting an all-time low. Now, that's just not the end of it. We know that there's a lot of drama and a lot of different, pieces going on between both Comedy Central, South Park Studios, Paramount Global, and Disney over the latest event episode called Joining the Panderverse that basically mocks Disney, the concept of race swapping, gender swapping, and just the entirety of the concept of woke Hollywood. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, as we previously discussed, there's been a lot of legal warnings and threats that were being done and made by Disney against Comedy Central, Trey Parker, and Matt Stone for what they actually did with mocking the concept of race swapping and gender swapping and how Disney views that as something that would deeply hurt their business. There's a lot of things that have been going on, and Disney basically got kicked to the curb by South Park Studios, by themselves making the ultimate point that this is all parody and that Mickey Mouse is going to enter the public domain anyway by January of 2024. There is literally nothing that Disney can do. Well, matters even got worse for Disney as South Park recently humiliated Disney behind the scenes between Parker, Stone, and the Comedy Central heads. Let's get into all of this. So about this whole fiasco that included Disney making these ridiculous meetings with, of course, the Comedy Central heads going up against the Disney heads, the drama continues as recently South Park Studios made the ultimate decision to really mock Disney in the best way possible. Now, with Comedy Central recently dealing with Disney's actions about their upcoming event South Park joining the Panderverse, one major development coming out of all of this has to do with the ongoing situation between the Disney heads and Comedy Centrals. As it turns out, after Disney took legal action, including the warnings and threats against South Park Studios, Paramount Global, and Com Central, by making legal threats and initiating legal meetings that failed for Disney, Comedy Central recently greenlit a plan by Parker and Stone that was proposed quickly after Disney was forced to back down, is that now South Park Studios reportedly has a full-fledged plan to actually turn Joining the Panderverse as an event into a full-fledged trilogy of stories into 3 parts. Parker and Stone are now doubling down to turn this into a 3-part event, much like how there were 2 parts for the streaming wars and a proposed 3rd one. One major pitch in the recent meeting that took place between Comedy Central and Disney during Disney's concerns about South Park's impact on their business is that they made it abundantly clear to the Disney heads that they plan to turn this into a multi-event series where the 2nd part is now fully intended to drop sometime next year, following the release of Snow White, that will bring a full return to Mr. Mouse, aka The Boss, which is a parody of Mickey Mouse. This was all brought to Bob Iger's attention by the Comedy Central heads and those at South Park Studios, but the CEO of Disney as South Park is planning to go all out in a more serious way to depict Mickey Mouse in their parody, since he will be entering the public domain anyway, starting in January of 2024. Now, though the plan to bring back Mr. Mouse was something in the works for months, Parker and Stone are now going to throw him into the story for Part 2 and Part 3 of Joining the Panderverse. Now, though a Part 3 release date schedule is not locked in yet, it is still aimed to be around 2025. Part 2 they want to get out by next year to mock Disney and their efforts to destroy multiple franchises and the swapping of race and genders in their live-action remakes. Now, though Disney recently backed down from taking legal action as they have no legal fight with Parody and how Mickey will be entering public domain anyway, they reportedly still warned South Park Studios that they are willing to initiate another legal meeting if this event episode truly hurts their business to a severe level. Trey Parker, who voiced Mr. Mouse, is reportedly going to parody Disney's actions and warnings that they made towards South Park Studios and to Comedy Central to parody the entire fiasco, and that this was something that was proposed to the Comedy Central heads that was quickly accepted. Apart from this 3-part event, Parker and Stone are also set to make a mockery, or a parody if you will, a story in their upcoming new event that's going to actually take a big jab at how Mickey Mouse is now in the public domain. Both Parker and Stone are planning to make this Panderverse Part 2 and 3 to be more directly aimed at Disney, specifically this time around to create a storyline for characters like Cartman, Stan, Kenny, and Kyle. Parker, who voiced Mr. Mouse, will be returning for the character as well again. Now, let me just say one thing about this real quick, guys, before I really move on to the next big thing about this all, is the fact that you can see how relentless Parker and Stone really are over at Comedy Central and South Park Studios. They have no care in the world about how people or corporations or studios feel, heck, even how other countries feel. You know, they get away with a lot of stuff. They've gone through a lot of lawsuits, mind you, and those lawsuits really work to no avail for, you know, pretty much for the most part on the other end of the spectrum. We know that Parker and Stone are going all out now with the concept of Mr. Mouse returning in 2024, not just for this planned 3-part event now of joining the Panderverse, but to also create a dedicated event and/or episode that's going to actually be a parody of Mickey Mouse entering the public domain. You can only imagine the possibilities in that episode about what they are about to do with Mickey Mouse entering the public domain. I can imagine a storyline right now where maybe you have all these different studios that are trying to create their own iteration of Mickey Mouse or something like that. Now, when you look at Parker and Stone, this is where things get wildly interesting. Let's progress, shall we? Now, in addition to this, the Disney heads are reportedly regrouping to find anything that they can get on South Park legally in any way to make a comeback in their warned legal meeting if this event, that's if, in this episode, hurts their business to a brand new low, which South Park made the argument to Disney in their legal meeting recently that there would be no way of telling if their parody event would be the cause of losses on Disney's end or not. And you know what, guys? That's very much true. There is no way to tell, especially the fact that Disney is floundering right now. There's no way the Disney heads, the board of directors, Bob Iger, the CEO, there's absolutely no chance that they could tell the difference or differentiate what's getting lost from what, you know, because they're losing at a very fast rate to the point where it's alarming to them. This is why they're pursuing all these cutbacks and budgeting limitations to a great new low, to the point where it's just getting very embarrassing for themselves as a studio, as a company, whatever have you. And the fact that we have South Park Studios forming and greenlighting this plan behind the scenes to turn this into a 3-part event is genius. It's genius. The fact that they are moving through with that, much like how they did with the streaming wars, where they initially had it as a part 1, then it progressed to part 2, and part 3 is a little up in the air right now. There's been a lot of up and downs with that, some updates here and there, and hopefully that gets out soon. But one thing about Parker and Stone that I love so much is that they are very balanced. They mock everyone and even themselves. And I think it's exactly why it leaps beyond The Simpsons or Family Guy or anything like those in those nature. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this ongoing development between Comedy Central, South Park Studios, and the Disney heads, mind you. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.